what I really want to talk about is misconceptions. Misconceptions of who we are. You know the dilemma of being a minority. Let's say black, because I'm black. Let's not talk about all minorities. Let's talk about black minorities or island-based minorities, or let's just talk about specific Jamaican-based minorities, right? If as a minority, I go in a place and everyone fears me or fears us, and we don't speak to anyone, and then they see us as, and they have a misconception of who we are. Is it up to us to allay that misconception, or is it up to them to search for the facts and understand us better as who we are? Because we are the minority, so we hold no power. In this society, if we I've learned something that if as Jamaicans, like I went very specific there, I told you already. As Jamaicans, if we don't come across the people and try to allay their fears in ways that they can understand, they tend to take us as the basis of things. Who we are and what we represent is out the window. What we stand for is out the window. What we are and a lot of things is just irrelevant to people after that. If we can't speak to them and become them, then we are not us. And I find that very, I like this word, counterproductive. If we're not going to come to in a society and an environment where we can understand each other, what's the point of you acknowledging that I am different or that I am a human being in the first place if you just want me to be you and act like you? There's a lot of things I can't change about myself. My heritage, I can't change. My heritage is my skin color, as you can tell. I can't change that. The way I act, I can't change too much of that because that's who I am. But if I treat everyone as a human being and I respect them for who they are and I expect the same respect back, isn't that humanly? So what part of me then do I need to change in that sense for another human being to understand what it is for me to be a human being? I find that we face that dilemma often, and it's very hard to get away from it. It's very hard to be yourself or represent who you are. There's nothing wrong with categories or categorizing people, but it's wrong when you limit those people, when those categories are limiting to their scope and their understanding of life. You can categorize someone, but if you give them the epitome of their strengths along with their weaknesses, those categories make sense. But if you're going to categorize someone based on solely the weaknesses of that group, if 90 people in that group are strong and 10 are weak, then 100 people are weak based on the categories you just formed. So what in actuality did you learn about that group of people? Nothing. You didn't learn about the better side, the human aspect of that person or that group of people. And if that group is constantly being misrepresented to other groups, then what are those groups supposed to think? When one person ventures from their group to another group, and they could be a simple-minded person just communicating as a human being, and the misrepresentation limits that communication so that prejudice or that fear or those doubts can't be changed. Who then is at fault? These are the things that if you're not in the group we're in, you don't face on a daily basis. It's not a thing us being, people would say if we reverse the case and we try to become something else, then we would be accepted. But I think that's a very racist and very prejudicial way of looking at things. You can't expect someone to be you and then be themselves at the same time. You have to accept someone as themselves. Their similarities is their humanity, but their differences is also our humanity. And if we eliminate differences and our understanding and perspectives on life, then what's the point of us being alive? So I look at it at this aspect, and I'm thinking, am I jumping back in the past where we were oppressed and we were feeling less than ourselves? Are we still at that point, or have we graduated past that point? But I look at it and I think there's no way we could have graduated past that point, because they've killed every leader we've had. So no matter how far we progress, they kill every leader we have. And don't tell me about there's a black president. That's not a leader for minorities. That's a figurehead for a Caucasian government. No offense to anybody who's watching this who is Caucasian. It's just a matter of fact of what it is. It's not a leader for our beliefs and our sense of self. I felt no negative or positive when he became president. I just felt a matter of another president for a system that oppresses the people, that already feels infringed because of that system. So it's not a matter of, oh, we're going to start a revolution or we're going to start the civil rights movement all over again. It's a matter of being allowed to be ourselves now. As much as the society we're in has accepted us and accepted the fact that we are unique and we are different, there's still that underlying, you must conform, you must conform, you must conform. And there's always a reason to. And that leads me to the question is it fear of what would happen if we were allowed to be ourselves, if we were allowed to gain back our identity and our pride? Like, a lot of people I meet, this again is, might take it offensively, I find they have no pride, they have no sense of identity, and it's a very disturbing event and turn of events to see in the society that we're in. It's in this so-called modern day and accepting environment that we've been in. How can you not be proud of who you are and constantly be trying to be what somebody else wants you to be? That in itself is I find very disturbing. And in society, if we speak out against it, will tell us that we have everything we need because they provided it for us. But you provided something that has nothing to do with us. But we should accept it for what it was. This isn't a matter of we go back into the past and claim you're the slave and I'm the slave and you're the master, so you owe me this and you owe me that. No, no, no. This is a matter of who we are being accepted on equal footing as who you are. Because who we are and how we represent ourselves and how we communicate with each other isn't necessarily how we communicate with you. But now you're forcing us to communicate with each other how we communicate with you and become you. But without that identity, we don't exist. Because your grasp of reality has no bearing on how we perceive that very same reality. So, am I willing to give up my identity and who I am to appease a group of people, being that I'm a minority in that group? Now that I've been moved to another group, should I give up my sense of self? Because they only think about the negatives of the group that I come from. And they're telling me to conform to their group because their positives outweigh my negatives. But they don't know my positives. So I'm giving up not only my positives, not only my negatives, but my positives to fit into that group. Because they know nothing about the strengths and the contribution I can make to any group I'm part of. Because they've already have a preconceived notion that the group that I come out of is purely negative. And if we were purely negative, how does that even make sense that we have survived this long and we have strived and been through so many struggles? Not that we want to regress back to the struggles or talk about the struggles, but without some form of strength and some form of guidance, how have we made it this far? And wouldn't it be more appropriate to try to share ideas and be more accepting of our contribution to this existence that we all share, instead of limiting to the negatives that they seem to perceive as who we are? But that's my rant for the night. And honestly, I don't think things like this accomplish anything, but putting it out there is a matter of opinion. Hopefully brings on more opinions of what's really going on. The question is it because I'm black? Listen to that song. It's a very good song. Is the way I'm treated in society based on preconceived notions of what being black or being Jamaican is, or is it based on me solely as a person? And for the most part, I feel like it's based on a negative grouping of who I am, not what I personally represent in life. And that drives a lot of people to sell out their own culture, or sell their own culture, or sell themselves, or debase themselves, or feel less than themselves while they're trying to get through life. And that in itself is worse than oppression. Because if I'm oppressed, I can see you oppressing me. I can see you pushing on my face, and I could break your leg. But if it's this underlying current of me somehow supposed to be feeling less than you, it's like speaking to the wind. There is nothing there. And the more I observe, the more I see it, and it comes to light, and I wonder, is this how it will permanently be, and that people will finally start to forget that it's there and just keep being subservient and being less than who they are? Or will there be some time in the future where we can all sit down and express our actual strengths and be accepted? Not even accepted, because I don't think it's a matter of accepted, but be respected for who we are and not who we're perceived to be. But anyways, like I said, I make these videos because I have time to pass, and I have something I am working on right now, and hopefully that something does work out. If it does, great. If it doesn't, that's life. But in the meantime, I make these videos. This one had very little poetry in it. It was very all talking. Like I said, I make my poetry very conversational. This was a conversation. So watch, learn, don't learn, doesn't matter. But it's like I said, it's just an opinion.